Welcome to this podcast. I'm your host, Zach Schwartz, and we're back from a little break here. Had to take care of some college things, exams, meetings, the sort. But I am super excited for today's show because it's pay-per-view week. UFC 253 is on Saturday. So the one and only, my cousin, the UFC expert, the longtime fan, it's Ryan Lucchesi to break down the two title fights we have and other things that have been happening in MMA in the month of September. Ryan, how are you doing?
Oh, I am doing great, and that was an intro I do not deserve, but I will fully take it, and I appreciate it. Thank you for having me back. I'm excited for this one. UFC 253, 2 championship fights going on. This is going to be a fun one.
I will say, I listened to a college football podcast, and one thing they do during their preview, since they're two 40-year-olds, is they do a window of opportunity where you have to take care of girlfriend things or your family, because if we were left to our own devices, we just watch sports all day as males because that's just what we love. I will say, if you want to go out to dinner with the girlfriend for this one, I'd say probably do that. You could go 6, 7 o'clock. The card isn't the most deep. However, make sure you're back for the pay-per-view, for the true title fights at the end, and, of course, just all of them in the 10 o'clock fight card, I would say. Would you agree with that assessment?
I would agree. You know what? I'd say if you got there at 10:15, 10:20, you missed, maybe part of the first fight, that's okay. The rest of this card, it's not the best, all right? I thought the Fight Night card this past weekend was better, but then again, the Fight Night card didn't have 2 championship belts on the line, and that's what this card's about. So definitely get back for that 10 o'clock-ish card, and you'll be set. Like you said, you got to make the girlfriend happy. Take her out to dinner, then she'll leave you alone while you're watching your fights.
Yeah, my girlfriend will be missing out because the UCF starts at noon, so she is going to be locked down for the whole day unless she drives me somewhere. So that's what's going to happen unless she kidnaps me out of the house. So, but for the other ones out there that might have a more balanceable relationship and aren't in college. But yes, as you mentioned, 2 title fights, and they truly are going to be, we've had some disappointing title fights, recently, especially with one person fighting in this title fight here. But I think these are going to be 2 great fights. I don't think there's any way these 2 ones will be, the type of boring ones that you do see, unfortunately, where the styles don't make fights. Israel Adesanya is fighting Paulo Costa, finally, for the middleweight belt. This one, of course, was supposed to be scheduled, earlier in the year, pre-pandemic and everything, if you can imagine a time. But Paulo Costa had, I believe it was an eye injury. I could be wrong on that. And now here we are, 2 undefeated middleweight guys. How do you feel about this one?
I feel this fight's going to live up to the hype. As you alluded to, one of the guys in this fight kind of had a let-down fight in his last title defense, and that would have been Adesanya versus Romero. That fight, everybody thought was going to just be hype, thought it was going to be a banger. It wasn't. This one, I think I'm safe sending out a guarantee that it's going to be exciting. It may not last very long, but it's going to be exciting for however long it does go. That's for sure. And correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Costa, and it's probably not just your girlfriend, it's probably all the girlfriends around the world, but isn't Costa kind of like your girlfriend's crushed too? Like her side piece, her boyfriend right there? I
will say it I'll start with the fact that I would have her come in here but she's in the meeting right now. Maybe towards the end of the pod we get her in here. At the last pay-per-view, it was Stipe versus DC, and they played the ad, for the next one with the 3-minute ad for Costa Adesanya headlining 253. And both Katie and Emily Woolheiser as well, who has been on this podcast before, there's who is that man? Who is that Brazilian man? And to be honest, I don't blame them. He has negative 1% body fat, and he has a nice face. He's a very handsome man, and he just looks like he's a machine. And now I will also add that, having a little get together, we talked about it. I am the safe number under COVID regulations for the UCF University and everything like that. Most of them are female. And
they are in for a treat for this fight. I mean, I can't blame them. Like you said, you look at him, he's full body armor, he's got the chiseled face, so, I mean, it's understandable. It's understandable. But getting back to the actual fight, besides just Costa's good looks, yes, this fight will be a good one. It's going to be precision and accuracy on Adesanya's part versus power and strength on Costa's part. And we're going to see which one wins.
I was trying to find the odds here as well on Bovada, and they only have the regular odds, of which puts Izzy at a minus 175 favorite, Costa plus 145 underdog. I wanted to see what the knockout odds are, because there's no way this fight lasts 5 rounds, right?
I want to say no, but we have seen stranger things. I'm trying to see if I can pull the odds up myself, but there's a good chance there's a finish to this fight. But Izzy does pack more power than he looks like, because he is skinny. He doesn't look like he has a whole lot going on, but he does. What power he has is combined with his accuracy, and that's what allows him to get the knockouts. Costa, of course, he doesn't need to be as accurate. He just has that raw power. Right now, I do not have the knockouts either for this one. So, yeah, we don't have that going on. That's kind of awkward right here. Oh, hang on. No, all right. I found Costa by a KO in round 1 is plus 800. And same with Adesanya. Costa by a knockout in round 2 is plus 1,000. So they're actually pretty high.
Yeah, wow.
Wow. These are definitely a lot higher than I thought would be. I guess the bookmakers have this going fairly long.
Do you think it's an overreaction to Adesanya's last fight with Romero? Just because I would say Yoel, in terms of being a physical specimen, is the most similar to Paulo Costa I can think of in the sport, just from the fact of looking like a superhuman. And we saw how Adesanya handled that one. Granted, Adesanya was the champion, and there wasn't as much, trash talk before the fight. So I assume this one will be different. But do you think that's an overreaction to that fight we saw in February?
It could be. It's also a week out. Well, not today, but when these lines came out, it was a week out probably.
Yeah. Just
not sure how it's going to go. Like you said, we saw kind of a snooze fest for Adesanya's last fight against Romero, but they kind of both fight with the same styles. A lot of what Adesanya does is he waits to get attacked, and that's when he'll slip a jab, throw his own, or he'll try to grapple and do a judo throw and use the opponent's momentum to throw them to the ground and then beat them there. And Romero's kind of a defensive fighter as well. In this one, we have Paulo Costa, and he's an offensive fighter. He will come at you, which plays well into Izzy's style, as I was saying. So as long as Izzy can take the punches from Costa, not take too much damage, I think, this fight has potential. This fight's going to be a fun one, no matter what. It's not going to be a snooze fest.
Yeah, that's something you see when you watch Costa's recent fights against Uriah Hall and also against Yoel Romero. He just is constantly moving forward and almost never trying to grapple. Just on the feet, I'm going to punch you in the face more than you punch me in the face, and that's just how it's going to go. And what's amazing is that when Costa and Romero fought, it did end up going to decision in a 3-rounder. I would encourage everybody to watch that fight. I believe the UFC posted it on YouTube for this week's fight. That was just a brawl. I mean, that's one of the best fights I think I've watched. We were talking about that pre-show, some of the fights recently that have happened that would be included in a historic list. That's one that is just, they both almost knock each other out in the first 2 minutes, and it gets crazier from there. I think that's much more like the fight we will see. Of course, it's going to be funny is that getting into the octagon, of course, Adesanya is going to look so much smaller than Costa, just based on their body types and stuff like that. But Adesanya is so dangerous, and obviously being the favorite here as well, even if it's a slight one than we're used to seeing in these type of fights. It's just gonna be interesting. And you're right. You mentioned it too. Adesanya loves his counter jabs, loves his counter hooks, and obviously his kicks as well are deadly when you're trying to run in. So I'll be curious to see how aggressive Costa is at the start, because he's always been super aggressive, but he's never met somebody as technical as Adesanya.
Yes, that is true. Adesanya is definitely the more technical one. Costa has attempted only one takedown in his UFC career. So they both average 0 takedowns. So neither one, if that tells you anything about what their potential for ground game is. Not saying they don't have ground skills. They're just not the ones to initiate it. Adesanya has an 86% takedown defense, while Costa has an 81. So they're both good at not being taken down. They like to stand on the feet and bang. Adesanya was a kickboxer before this. I think he has, I don't want to make up stats here, but I thought he had 90-something kickboxing fights.
Yeah. So
he's definitely been around the striking much longer. Costa lands 8.83 significant strikes per minute, and that is the highest. I'm not sure if that's the highest in just the division or in all of the UFC. But that's landing significant strikes, which is huge. So, yeah, this one is going to be action-packed. And like we said before, accuracy versus power is what this one's going to come down to.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I think I'm taking accuracy. I think I'm going to go with Adesanya. Maybe by knockout late, he starts piecing up Costa a little bit and then catches him when Costa gets on the end. Oh, Katie's here. Katie, we're giving you... Here, you can put on the headphones real quick to talk to Ryan. Oof. Katie, talk about your new love, Paulo Costa.
I don't think there's much to say. I mean, if you could attach a picture to this podcast, oh my gosh. I'm very excited to see him fight, but granted, I don't care if he wins or loses. I am just so excited to see this incredible fighter. I think it's going to be a very entertaining fight. We've got 2 good guys. They're both incredibly beautiful, but I think Paulo is going to... Actually, it doesn't look like he's going to win, but I'm just really excited to see it.
Just really excited to see him shirtless.
You're really excited to see him is what we're talking about. I mean, I'm looking at him right now on the UFC page. I'm trying to count his abs, and I keep losing count.
I know. You can't count them. There's just...
No, it's just way too many.
He's just so massive. And
I understand where you're coming from here.
Thank you. A man of good taste.
Thanks for liking him.
Yes, of course. Well, it was a pleasure talking with you, Ryan. I'm going to go look at some pictures of him for a little bit.
Well, you go enjoy that.
Thank you, sir.
That's called perfect timing right there.
I love that guest interview right there. I did realize, like you had also mentioned before, they are going to look completely different in the ring, given Adesanya's skinnier, leaner build compared to Costa's denser, thicker, muscular build. However, they do both have to weigh in the same, so we'll see how this weight cut goes for Costa. I wonder how much of an impact that will have on him. I thought I had heard coming at one point in this offseason he was up to 230 pounds. Yeah. Keep in mind that they weigh in at 185. So that is 55 pounds of cut. Of course, being the professional he is, I'm sure he started to trim down before fight camp even really started. But still, that's insane. I'm looking at this too. I didn't realize this myself, but Adesanya is 3 inches taller. He's 6'4" and Costa's 6'1", and he has a 8-inch reach advantage over Costa. So, yeah, I'm going with Adesanya to retain the belt.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. I just think, especially in this sport, I think sometimes, Costa could easily come in and make us look stupid and lay an uppercut in the first round. That's it. But I just think Adesanya, his whole game is based around technicality and fluidness and, sharp edges there. And I think he, especially for this fight, because he's known he would fight Paulo, and they've known they fought each other for a long time now. I feel like always in the back of his mind, this has been who he wants. This is who he'll piece up a little bit, especially in the later rounds, and that's the thing too, Adesanya's now been in multiple 5-round fights. Costa, to my knowledge, has not yet either. So, if he's always advancing, we could see something like possibly what, Adesanya is not this much of a veteran yet, but what Overeem did on a couple weeks ago, which we will talk about later, and then maybe drop a round or two, and then eventually come back and dominate in the later championship rounds. So I'm with you there. It's going to be interesting too, because this is something I've had to explain to a couple of my non-giant UFC fan friends. Is that they weigh in at 185, but they can weigh whatever they want in the octagon. It's just how much you can take back. So it's very likely Costa could have 5, 6, 7 pounds, maybe minimum on Adesanya, because I'm sure Adesanya has to cut weight, but it can't nearly be as much as Costa will be. And I don't know what he'll be eating afterwards, but I assume it will be a lot. If I'm not, you know more about that than I do. Am I correct in that assessment?
Yeah. Costa will be the heavier man for sure. No doubt about it. Yeah, once they're done weighing in, a lot of times right after they step off the scale, you'll see them get handed a blender bottle with some sort of concoction and fluids in it, whether it be a protein shake or just, I don't know what the mix is. But, yeah, they start eating and refueling and refeeding right away. I do believe that Costa will come in, and like you said, if he is 7 or 8 pounds heavier, that wouldn't be a surprise. Talking about Costa's ring time in the UFC, I don't think he's gone past the second round except for his last fight with Romero, which went all 15 minutes. Besides that, he's managed to finish everybody. Izzy, on the other hand, even though he doesn't have all finishes, he has the ring experience, going to 5 rounds, going into the championship rounds, which are the 4th and 5th round. That's going to play to his advantage. Even though his last one wasn't exciting in those rounds, he still has that under his champion belt to rely on. So Costa's good. He is. But I don't think he'll be good enough.
There we go. We're both on the champion and still for the main event Saturday night. I am super excited they added this fight as well. The Dominick Reyes versus, his nickname's the Polish Hammer, am I correct? And that's an awesome nickname.
Yes.
I can't say his name.
Blachowicz.
There we go. You got it for me.
Yeah, let me, I believe that's the correct pronunciation. But, yeah, he is, these are both good fighters, as we know. Reyes' last fight was against Jones for the championship belt, and some people say he won it, or he should have won. Other people say it was called correctly. I thought Dominick definitely won the first 2 rounds. I don't know about the third. We could give him the third, but the fact of the matter is, the way I heard it put was Jones won the championship rounds, and if you were fighting to the death, Jones would have won. Jones would have been would have been standing alone. So the fact that Jones got that win, I don't mind it. That's fine. I think it was legit. And these two, they're both deserving of this belt. Keep in mind, this belt was vacated. So Jones is not defending it anymore, but Jones never lost it. He just vacated the belt. So whoever wins this will be the new light heavyweight champion. This will be a good fight. Blachowicz, Jan, definitely has the power, I believe. Once again, we got power for somewhat more accuracy, I would say. However, these two they're not afraid to engage in going to the ground a little bit more than our other fighters. So it is possible that we see this going to the ground. And Jan's defense against the takedown isn't that great. It's only at 65%. But Dominick Reyes he only has a 16% takedown accuracy. So maybe we don't see this going to the ground, and this just stays standing up all along as well.
Yeah, I was reading on ESPN, they have Blachowicz as a jiu-jitsu fighter, and while I don't doubt his jiu-jitsu skills, I was watching some tape of him yesterday because I haven't seen him fight before live, so I went back and did some homework, and not one takedown attempt from him. So I'm like, if you're a jiu-jitsu guy, you would think at least one of these times against Volkan and Chris Weidman, and then, of course, this year against Corey Anderson, maybe just one, but he never did. So I thought that was an interesting designation there from ESPN. I will also, Reyes is a minus 300 favorite. You can, at least on Bovada here. I don't know if your odds are different. Jan at plus 230. So Vegas and other companies obviously see Reyes, being literally probably a couple punches away from the belt in the first Jon Jones fight, which personally, if I have to put on the record, I put 3-2 Jones. And as like you said, championship rounds in reality is if there's a swing round, Jones is going to get it, especially because he's Jon Jones. And honestly, I think he probably deserves it for how well he's performed. But I also agree with the fact that Reyes is in this fight for the interim belt, or for the belt, the vacant belt. After that loss anyway, rather than someone like Thiago Santos or something like that being in it. So, I mean, we'll see. It's going to be interesting because both these guys, obviously big strikers. They're big, lean guys at 205, but obviously packing a ton of power. So, this is one that the odds almost feel like a stay away to me unless you're confident in Jan. Like, minus 300 is too much to risk, in my opinion.
Yeah, just gambling purposes, you can throw a couple bucks on Jan to straight up win, or look into what the odds will be for a KO win or a submission win on Reyes. I am looking at his the stats right now. Going to Jan's jiu-jitsu, he has 35% of his wins by submission and only 27% by KO, and the other 38 are by decision. So if they're calling out a jiu-jitsu fighter, jiu-jitsu is the ground game, but that doesn't necessarily mean they practice takedowns as much. The takedowns come from judo and wrestling, more or less. So if somebody is a jiu-jitsu fighter, that doesn't mean that they necessarily are the best at takedowns, but they can definitely, once down, they can beat you up on the ground. So it's going to be best for Reyes to keep this thing on the feet, and that we may see Jan try to get some takedowns, knowing that he probably has the better skills when it comes to jiu-jitsu.
There we go. That is good information I did not know. So thank you for the education there. That makes a lot of sense.
Anytime. That's what I'm here for.
Oh, that's why the sport's so interesting, too, is just the different amount of disciplines and how it all has to blend together to be successful, like these two men are. I also think Reyes, if we're talking about gambling, is an interesting option to throw in a parlay if you feel confident on him, just as a kind of anchor there to get you positive somewhere else. In terms of the fight, I mean, I'm expecting to see stand-up stuff. Reyes a lot of times is on the front foot, whereas Jan a lot of times would want to counter coming off on the back foot and stuff. And obviously in the past, a nasty counter left, I believe it was, to knock out Chris Weidman when Chris Weidman tried to move up to light heavyweight a couple years ago. And obviously the same with Corey Anderson. I believe that was a straight right that knocked him out. I didn't bring out my notes, so could be wrong, but regardless, both counters. So that should be an interesting style there as well, because I know Reyes, obviously seen in that Jon Jones fight, loves to advance forward and forward.
Yes, absolutely. And the counters, kind of comparing that a little bit, like you were saying about Jan off his counters, that's also kind of what Izzy does, as we were talking about. But I do believe Jan will also initiate the fight as well. Yeah. He's not scared to move forward. Looking at their height, Reyes is 2 inches taller, but Jan has a 1 inch reach advantage. So height doesn't always translate to reach. So they're about pretty darn even on their physical stats. This fight will definitely be fun. It'll be good. The winner will definitely be deserving of the belt, and I see it going in Reyes' favor. As you said, Reyes, for betting purposes, I'd throw him in a parlay all day. I don't see Jan getting it. I've been wrong plenty of times before.
Yeah, and if Jan is going to win, I feel like it will be by some type of counter knockout there that, kind of throws it off our seats and we're like, oh, wow, like that really happened. That was spectacular. Because, I mean, I don't want to... I don't want to be, rude to the man. But, Dominick Reyes has basically literally been on the precipice of this title already. He's gone the full 5 rounds with John Jones and nearly beat him. And not many men could say that in this division. And I think he will take it too. And I think, if Reyes is going to win, I think it will be probably by decision. He's just going to outlast Jan here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's after seeing Reyes go the 5 rounds with Jones, I don't see how you can really bet against him.
Yeah.
In any serious manner. Like we said, if you want to throw a couple bucks on Jan just for the hell of it, for the possibility of getting plus 275 odds, or in your site plus 300, whatever it may be, go for it. But other than that, Reyes is the way to go.
What are other fighters here that you were interested in today? We said it's not today, on Saturday. For Saturday's card. We covered how it's not the deepest card in the world, but there are still obviously some good nuggets, and you, being a fan of the sport for so long, know those nuggets. So who else should we be paying attention to on Saturday beyond the main 2 fights?
Well, the third fight on the main card is Kai Kara France versus Brandon Royval. This is a featherweight matchup, so it means these guys are weighing in at 125 pounds, and they are going to be fast. You don't always get the biggest knockouts with light guys like this. It'll either come from submissions or a full decision, but they're fun fights to watch. The little guys, they just move fast. They're in and out. It's a lot of action. This will be a good one to watch. I'll go with Kai Kara France to win over Brandon. Don't really know why. I don't know. I got Kai Kara France winning that one.
It's a great name.
Yeah, it is a good name. Not bad at all. And then the second fight on the main card, we have Sijara Eubanks versus Caitlin Vieira. I'm more familiar with Sijara, so I'll take her. Then to open up the main card, we have Hakeem Dawodu versus Zubaira Tukugov. Please don't quote me on the names. I just butchered them. So I'll take Hakeem to win that. However, I know I breezed through those. I really don't know those names too much. I have seen Hakeem fight. I think he wins. So I'll take Hakeem and Sijara for those fights. Going to the prelims, though, we have a long-time UFC contender, Diego Sanchez, who's always fun to watch. He's a weird human. He really is. He's just really weird. I don't know what else to say about the guy. In one of his last fights, he stuck his finger up. Oh no, I'm blanking out who he was fighting. Anyway, they were in a grappling position, and he stuck his finger up the other dude's butt. And he even laughed about it after. There was an interview that he gave afterwards. He knew what he was doing. It's Diego. He was on the Ultimate Fighter series on like season 1 or 2 way back in the day. So he's been around a long time. I want to see this guy win just for his weirdness. It's great. But the first fight on the prelims, starting at 8 a.m., there's a guy named William Knight, and he's from Dana White's Contender Series. He's been on there twice. This last go-around, which was just a few weeks ago, he got a win, so I'm really happy to see him getting called up. He's taking on Alexa Kamur. I don't really know too much about him. Of course, this will be Williams' first fight in the UFC. I just want him to win, considering that I saw him on the Contender Series. I like the guy, and I just want to see him do well.
So Sanchez, his last fight was against Michael Pereira. Is that who you...
Pereira, is there Michael Chiesa by chance?
Yep, that was the one before that, last July.
I'm pretty sure Chiesa is the one who got fingered by him.
I did expect this.
I'm not making this shit up. I mean, I may be making this up. I don't think I am, but, well, yeah, pretty sure he stuck his finger up Chiesa's butt.
Oh, this Google search is about to get me into so many watch lists. Here we go.
Some weird-ass watch list.
Here we go. Diego Sanchez, finger up butt. Let's see. Oh, it's loading.
Don't tell me I'm...
Michael Chiesa, Diego Sanchez touched my butthole.
Okay, there it goes. All right, so I may have exaggerated. It wasn't like he was 1 or 2 knuckles deep, but he did play around at the entrance of the butthole. All right? That's just it's weird. I know it's UFC. Your grappling hands are going to different places. I don't really know how common that is. So yeah, I'm rooting for the butthole toucher. There, I said it out loud.
He's also the biggest underdog on the card, at least on my end. It doesn't look like it's close, so I'm assuming for most sports books across the country.
That's fantastic. It does not surprise me that he's an undercard or an underdog. He's kind of out of his time. Ooh, plus 500 on 9. Yeah. Yes. I mean, once again, you throw $20 on that, boom, there you go.
Yeah.
You're looking at $100 return. That's not too bad.
I will also add Sijara Eubanks. She fought only 2 weeks ago on a card we were going to discuss later and won, I believe, by submission victory. So she is back in the octagon very quickly and is an underdog as well, a slight underdog on my end. So that's also something to watch out for. Just want to add that tidbit there. Good call out for her as well.
Yeah, I see that. She's an underdog on mine at a plus 150.
Intriguing. So I hinted at this earlier. We wanted to go back a little bit because it's been a while since we've been on, and we were going to discuss some of the big fights that have happened, because while these cards may not have been, super deep due to COVID and such like that, there have been some important fights this month, and we're going to start with the first fight night, which saw Alistair Overeem knock out up-and-comer Augusto Sakai. This was an odd one, and I'm rooting for Overeem because he's the vet. He's another one of those guys, just a giant man at heavyweight up there. And I have nothing against Sakai or anything like that, but I want to see him go on one last run here. And I just the first 2 rounds of this fight, I'm like, Overeem, what are you doing? What are you doing here, man? Like, you're sitting up against the fence, you're just taking punches and eating them for no reason. But of course, this is why I'm not an MMA fighter or coach or analyst yet. And because Overeem took those punches, took down Sakai, I believe exactly 3 times because he held him there the rest of the round of round 3, 4, and 5, and then knocked him out on the ground in round 5. Your thoughts of the Reem here?
The Reem, man, I want to see him make a run again, just like you said. He's been around so long. He's fun to watch. I've actually seen him fight twice live. Once in Cleveland when he lost his Stipe, and Stipe gained that championship belt. I was there for that. It was beautiful to watch. That place went nuts. It was great to see Stipe get that win. And then I also had the pleasure of seeing his head get taken off at Little Caesars Arena. So that was I've seen him twice in person. However, I do want to see him do well, and watching him take on Sakai was great. You saw just the veteran experience take over. He wasn't doing too great in the first 2 rounds, kind of gave those up, but he came back to dominate the last 3. It turns out throughout the fight he broke a couple of Sakai's ribs, if I recall, and then he was just doing this nasty ground and pound. When he would take Sakai down, he would get side control, and he would just place his hand on Sakai's head, put his hand over his face, slip his hand off, and bash him with a forearm and an elbow. And it was just dominant ground control, kind of looking like he did back in the day. So maybe this is good. Maybe he's found a new gear to get him through his final days of fighting. And it was fun to watch him.
Yeah, I agree completely. It was truly a veteran's fight. I don't usually say that word too much in the UFC, but it truly was, just a veteran's fight that he had there. He knew exactly what he had to do eventually, and it was to his great advantage there at the end of those rounds to get those takedowns and then just dominate Sakai with them on the ground. And especially now, we talk about him making a last run. Heavyweight division has some openings. Derek Lewis looked good, this past month, as did Rosenstruck, who's in the number 3 position, and Curtis Blades obviously up there number 2, and Ngannou, is the one that blew off Overeem's face literally with one punch, when they fought last, and then Stipe the champion. There's still, if Overeem wins 1 or 2 more fights, he's right in the mix there. Oh, absolutely. So it's good to see that. The problem is a lot of those names you mentioned, I like all those names too. I don't hate too many people in the heavyweight division.
So it's hard for me to be picking sides and cheering against them. As much as I say I want Overeem to do well, I want to see Black Beast get his due. Yeah. I want to see Stipe keep the belt. I want to see I just want to see a lot of things happen that just aren't possible. They all contradict each other. So I don't know. I hope Overeem's going to keep on fighting. And he just looked really good. Like you said, it was a veterans fight on that one.
Yeah. And then the next week saw the cancellation of Glover Teixeira and Thiago Santos, because I believe Santos had COVID first, and then Glover got it after him when they rescheduled it as well. So that was unfortunate. I think they're looking to rebook that bout coming up as well. So Michelle Waterson versus Angela Hill was the main event, and man, was in the main event. Now, I also want to add too here, because something that I mentioned here with the cancellation was that these women were supposed to fight a 3-round fight, and then they were bumped up, and they both agreed to a 5-round fight and went the full 5 rounds in a slugfest. So I think they both deserve shout-outs for that, and it was a very close fight. It was a split decision, and I feel like if it's a split decision, if a person hands in their card 4-1 for one fighter, they have to be removed immediately, right? Because I thought Waterson won. I had 3-2 for her. But someone has that 4-1. I don't understand how that's even possible. And I go back to also I didn't mention it, but the John Jones fight as well. We were talking about Dominick Reyes earlier. So one of them scored that fight 4-1 and got paid for doing so. That's ridiculous, in my opinion. And I believe many MMA people will agree with me on that one.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's unfortunately, it's not a perfect system. There's only 3 judges. They're all human, and none of them really have fighting experience. This has been talked about throughout for a long time now on MMA shows, MMA podcasts. Talking about getting judges that may be ex-fighters or who have actually fought and understand what they're fully looking at. Some judges may only understand the boxing aspect of it, and not understand the jiu-jitsu part of it. Some may only understand the wrestling portion of it. It's just unfortunate that you do have bad judging. I'm happy to see Michelle win. That was great. She needed that one. But then Angela Hill, I just feel bad for her. She's had 3 decisions in a row. Speaking of bad decisions, she should have won her last one.
Yep. Well,
but not the Waterson one, the one previous to that. That was just – it's bad judging all around. But I was happy to see Michelle win this one. I don't really know if I can't recall. I just remember thinking I didn't know who won. I didn't have a score myself, and I would have hated to be a judge on that one. I just know that it wasn't 4-1. Yeah. But then it's hard to do, because if it is so close and you take it round by round, it could still be a 4-1 fight. It was just a close 4 rounds.
Could be. That's true.
It could. It's tough, and I'm not in the position. Like, there's some – I'm trying to think of better examples, but I'm blanking right now. But I just know I watch a fight, and I'm like, that person definitely won all 3 rounds maybe, but I can see it being scored a 2-1 fight just because it was so close, and the other person stayed in there with them. They just didn't win any rounds, but doesn't mean they got their ass kicked. They were in it the whole time. So it's tough. I'm not a judge for that reason. So
yeah, and they're octagon side, correct? They're like right there, if I'm right.
Yeah, they're in there. They're in there.
That's got to be a tough place to actually see, right? Because we're getting the unobstructed view from the top. I could be wrong. You've been to multiple UFC events. I've not been to any. I feel
that's going to change.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Of course it is. Once COVID lightens up, you know that's the first thing. That's one of the first things on my bucket list here. Once we graduate here from down here, but I wonder if the cage side view doesn't do them any favors. It's almost like if you're in a basketball game, right? There's certain. I mean, I guess it's different, but it's almost like UFC's. They would be below the octagon, right? That would mess with me.
I'm not exactly sure where they're placed. They're definitely not above it. They are looking through the cage, and this has been another thing that's been discussed. Should the judges be in a back room where they're actually watching it on TV? Get the view that the viewers get. Because then you get all 8 sides of the octagon, not just the one you're looking from. You're not looking through a fence. You don't have the referee walking in your way. You can see the fight from above, unobstructed. And that's something that has been talked about, adding more judges instead of just 3. They stole this from boxing, the 3 judges, the 10-point scoring system, which in boxing, that's okay. You can look at pressure, footwork, punches, strikes. Okay, but in MMA, mixed martial arts, you have more than just boxing. You have ground games. You have wrestling. You have kickboxing. You have Muay Thai. It's different styles. So it's not fair to the judges. It's not fair to the fighters. You'd think that there'd be a different way to do it, but then again, Uncle Dana has this organization up and running pretty well, so I'm not going to argue with the man.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And I just want, once again, to credit the 2 women. I mean, Angela Hill-Michelle Waterson, just a fantastic fight. If you have ESPN Plus, go back and rewatch it. If you missed it, you skipped out on this card because it was a fantastic fight. Probably top 10 of the year, I would argue,
yes.
up in there. So this past weekend, this was a good.
Can I stop you really quick?
Of course you can.
All right. As you had mentioned earlier, Sijara Eubanks, she had fought on this card as well, and she got the win over Julia Avila. So this was just 2 weeks ago. She was a plus 250 underdog then. She won. I got her winning as a plus 140 underdog this upcoming weekend.
Yeah, it's odd that she's an under. I mean, now she is ranked now in the. She's fighting the 7th ranked girl Vieira there, and she's 13th now. So hey, if she's going to climb up those bantamweight rankings, this will be the fight to do it.
She has the opportunity. I guess the tough thing is not only dealing with the time change, because these fights this weekend are on Fight Island. I don't know if we had mentioned that. So they'll be fighting at 7 o'clock in the morning, their local time. So we here in the United States can be watching at 10 o'clock p.m. But, yeah, she just fought 2 weeks ago. Hopefully she had some time to recover and everything. So that's probably playing into why she's an underdog as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. It makes sense, but still, I think she's shown in the past fights that type of toughness that can push through if you're looking at that sort of thing. So this past weekend, good card, just top to bottom. For a fight night, it was a great card. Kevin Holland made a great appearance on here, calling out Kazmat Kimev after the win. Johnny Walker got back onto the right turf there with a round 1 win over Ryan Spann. Mackenzie Dern's back on a submission, and your boy, Cowboy, many people's boy, I should add, in a good fight with Nico Price, and Colby Covington added to Tyron Woodley's misery. We could talk about any of those or none of those. We'll talk about some of them, of course. Where do you want to start with those?
All right, well, I would like to actually jump to the prelims really quick. Shout out to Randy Costa with a beautiful head kick KO 41 seconds into the fight. Yeah. Earned him a performance of the night. Remember his name, Randy Costa. He's up and coming. Also, Derek Minner, a plus 265 underdog. This was only his 2nd fight in the UFC, but he was fighting a guy named TJ Laramie who won on Dana White's Contender Series. I don't know. I thought plus 265 for Derek was such disrespect to him that I did put money on him, and he got the submission in 48 seconds, which is huge to sub somebody that fast. Usually you got to work through a couple different patterns and movements to get to a sub. This guy, he got it done in 48 seconds. Shout out to that. Jessica Rose Clark versus Sarah Alpar. There was some controversy there with a knee and a stoppage. However, they got through it. Jessica got the win. So I just wanted to call out those prelim fights. Those were some that stood out to me. As for the main card, the whole main card was great. I did miss most of the Kevin Holland-Darren Stewart fight. I was traveling over to a buddy's house at that time. So what did you make of that fight?
Yeah, I thought Holland had the win there. It's just such a close fight, and I've never seen Darren Stewart before, but man, tough guy in there. I think Holland's a bit bold there by calling out Khamzat. I don't think he's obviously going to get that or necessarily deserves it, but I still think he got the win. Okay. It obviously was a split, so yeah.
Yeah, I'll take it. Like I said, I didn't watch it. I didn't go back and rewatch it. So good for Kevin Holland. He's fun to watch in the ring, too.
Yes.
So definitely fun to watch. Then after that, Mackenzie Dern with the submission over Randa Marcos. I mean, that was kind of anticipated. Mackenzie's jiu-jitsu game is just impeccable. You don't mess with it. She's great. If you want to learn how to do jiu-jitsu, just watch her.
Yep.
That was awesome. The Johnny Walker Ryan Spann fight. I was thinking Spann was going to win this. I wanted him to, even though Johnny that was on a 2-fight losing streak. But it was good to see Johnny get the win. Especially that he was out on his feet, it looked like, at one point. Mm-hmm. And Spann took his back. I was hoping for a finish by Spann there, but he's just going to get it done. Johnny overcame the adversity and ended up getting the knockout. Something that I've noticed lately, it happened on the last card too, is when guys go for the double leg takedown, they're keeping their head on the hip of their opponent, which opens them up to taking strikes, whether it be elbow or hammer fist to the temple. I don't know why this is becoming more prevalent lately, but it seems like as a professional fighter, you know better than to do that. You got to move your head and get it out of the way. If you don't get that takedown, you at least need to get your head in between your opponent's legs, I guess. You definitely don't want it on the side to where you leave your head open to get hit and elbowed. And that's exactly what Ryan Spann did, and that's how he went out to Walker. So Johnny definitely deserving of the win, and he earned that one. He's back in the winning section, and we'll just see what he has to do from there. He's also light heavyweight, which is one of the championships that's taking place this weekend. So he can work his way up real quick and get his name back in the discussion.
Yeah, he's up to 10th now. He moved up one spot. So 10th, that is a true 10th because there's no champion right now. They've raised the number 1. So yeah, he could certainly take advantage. He was a guy that was on the hot streak before, and obviously had a couple losses there, and now back in the win column, as you said. Are you on the Khamzat Chimaev hype train now?
Well, I'm embarrassed. I don't even want to talk about this, but yeah, I was all for Gerald Mishart, GM3. I was hoping the vet would take Khamzat into deep waters. Turns out they didn't even make it out of the bay. That fight lasted 17 seconds due to one nasty hit. And Chimaev, I don't know how to pronounce these names. Khamzat. I'll call Khamzat.
Yeah, there we go.
I doubted you. I wasn't on the hype train. But, yeah, you got skills. You got power. You're going places. That's for damn sure. I won't doubt you again. If I bet against you, it's just because the odds, it only makes sense to do so. That's why, and I'll be cool with losing like $10, $15. But other than that, I mean, Khamzat, pay attention to him.
Yeah. Maxa just texts me. He'll be like, Smish won to get today. That's what he texts me. He's just like, Smish. That's all he says. Well, because how he pronounces smash or whatever.
Smish.
Yes.
Smish time.
He's fighting Damian Maia next. We knew that coming into this fight. They already booked him, which obviously made GM3 upset. I mean, 17 seconds. GM3 can no longer be upset. But Damian Maia is the 6th-ranked contender in the welterweight division, of course. Khamzat has been straddling both the middleweight and welterweight divisions in recent months. Damian Maia's a big step up. Like, I'm surprised, and I know it's all about, matchmaking and stuff like that, so they wouldn't give him necessarily someone like Jeff Neal, who they're very high on as well as a prospect. But, skipping names like, Rafael Dos Anjos, stuff like that, to go to Damian Maia is bold.
Yeah, definitely. However, Damian Maia, he's a little on the older side, as we know. And he's got some nasty jiu-jitsu. He's a great jiu-jitsu specialist, that's for sure. But I don't know. How do I go against a 17-second knockout like that? I think he does the same thing to Damian, unfortunately.
Wow. Okay. So that really shows. Yeah. So you're fully on that, because I would think Maia, someone like you, would be the veteran, be like, okay, this is the guy that, if you actually think about it, Kazmat's big strength is in wrestling, but Maia can then match with jiu-jitsu. But I mean, if you're taking that, and especially now, we Kazmat's mostly done his work on the ground, and there, I mean, just a straight right with so much power, just right on the chin, knocked him out straight away. So
all right, now let me back up. I may have spoke too soon. This fight's going to take place at welterweight, right?
I would believe so.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I don't really know on this one. I just said I want to go against this guy, Khamzat. But yeah, he does have. If it goes to the ground, we're gonna see jiu-jitsu versus wrestling, and we're gonna see if what comes out ahead. It'll be interesting. It'd be cool to see that one go to the ground and see who dominates there. I'll still take Khamzat. I already said it. I'll stick with it. I'm not gonna backtrack.
Yeah. I assume we'll see that fight before the end of the year, I'd imagine. So I'm sure we'll be talking about that in the coming months. Cowboy. I saw that they gave him this fight, and I know Cowboy, he just goes out there and just wants to go to war. And I understand that. And I know Nico Price isn't ranked, and that to many UFC fans, that name's like, whatever, see, Cowboy should have won that fight. But Nico Price is a bad, bad man. Can't they, I just feel bad for who they're giving Cowboy at this point, because even when they bring him a step lower in competition, it's still like with a killer like Nico Price. You know what I mean? I know you are one of the biggest fans of Cowboy. You will defend him till you die, and I don't blame you. But my goodness, and I know this ended up being a majority draw, largely because of a point deducted due to eye poke. But man, I mean, the UFC owes Cowboy, a couple layups, don't you think?
I mean, Cowboy doesn't want layups. That's not in his nature. He doesn't want the easy stuff. This Nico Price guy, he's a wild man. He has 2 or 3 wins by knockout off of his back.
Yeah.
An up kick, even just hammer fists from his back. He's knocked guys out. It's ridiculous to watch. I thought Cowboy Donald Cerrone was going to go out in the first 2 minutes. It looked like he was wobbly, and seeing how his last few fights have been, it wouldn't have been a surprise. I'm glad he stayed in the whole fight. I wish he would have won, but I'm glad he didn't lose. Yeah, Cowboy, man, he's getting a little long in the tooth, and he's slowing down, but I hope he can find a second gear here later on in his career, and he can make another run at it. That's one guy I would love to see get a title shot, but probably not going to happen. That's just hoping and wishing right there. Cowboy, he doesn't want the easy fights. He's not in it for that. He wants to be challenged. He wants to be pushed. That's the only way you move up. You don't move up by getting these unranked guys all the time. You move up by fighting ranked fighters, and that's what he wants to do, I'd assume.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense for sure. It's sometimes painful to watch.
Absolutely.
Similar to stuff like we didn't call this out, but the last Robbie Lawler fight as well, where I don't think Lawler looked finished like many people were saying, because Magny's just a tough opponent for anybody in a weird style. But it's just not the same, And both of them happen to be 15th in their rankings as well. So it's a sport where it just happens. It's almost like watching Peyton Manning at the end, where it's just like this is tough, and we just have to enjoy the memories we've had, right? That got really sad. Got really sad.
Well, speaking of really sad, I think we're about to talk about a sad one here next.
What happened to Tyron Woodley? Did Usman just break his spirit? I mean, because I think I did some homework on this because I knew we were talking about this. He's probably the 3rd greatest welterweight of all time behind Matt Hughes and GSP, correct? Is that fair to say? He's at least 3rd in defenses. So, I mean, I feel like that was a logical place. to go with there. But I mean, goodness, and normally with those guys, GSP lost the belt once or twice, as did Matt Hughes. They come back and they won again, stuff like that. And I mean, Kamaru Usman took the belt from Woodley, and I don't think Woodley hasn't won a round since, if I'm correct.
Woodley, that statement would have been correct a few years ago about Woodley being the third greatest, probably. Woodley lost 5 straight rounds to Usman. Woodley lost 5 straight rounds to Burns. Woodley lost he technically lost 4 straight rounds to Covington. If he didn't break his rib in the 5th round, he would have lost 5 straight rounds. That would have been 15 straight rounds in the UFC loss. I don't know. He doesn't have the killer instinct anymore. He doesn't, when they're in between rounds and he's sitting on the chair, he just doesn't look like he has it. On the ground, there's no fight to him. It's not the Woodley that came out and fought Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. This is not the Woodley that knocked out and shut up. Oh gosh, this would have been good if I can remember his name. Who's the British guy?
Oh, Darren Till.
Yeah, Till. This is not the same Woodley that knocked Till out and shut him up. All right, this is I don't know who this is. It's a shell of Woodley. Unfortunately, I hate saying that. I don't know if he's focused too much on his music and trying to do other things outside of the cage. But fighting, I don't know how much longer I can keep saying this is it. I know it's only been really 2 fights because the Usman fight started all. And I was like, oh, well, he'll come back for Burns. I know he'll definitely get Covington. I don't know. I'm not sure about him, and it's sad to watch. The chosen one may have his time may be up.
Yeah, and to me, he almost looks like a quarterback that's been hit too many times. Type thing where it's like, yeah, I'm just don't want to drop back in the pocket anymore. Like I just don't feel ready. And obviously in this sport, it's very possible that could be what happened. He just, because at some point, even like someone like Robert Whittaker has been talking about this. When he lost that belt to Adesanya, with the pressure and everything of it, he just psychologically he wasn't there, and he took a long time off, and of course picked up a win in his most recent bout, and a convincing one at that. And so it seems like Woodley, hasn't gotten that. And personally, when I saw his name come across fighting Colby, I was like, oh no. I understand they were rivals, but like this is not the fight for him to make right now. It just wasn't. I don't think it was. I don't know what else he would have done in terms of rankings. Because at the time he dropped down to 5th. I mean, I don't know. You could have ran it back with Wonderboy just for fun, because Wonderboy has been taking a lot of breaks, or someone lower in the rankings, But I mean, now they dropped Woodley to 7th, which frankly feels generous. Like if he was fighting Neil Magny right now, who is at 10th, or Vicente Luque, like I'm taking Magny or Luque. Like I'm just being honest. I don't know what you do with him from here. And I know Dana even said, like, I think he should retire. And I know Dana likes to say stuff, and I think maybe we'll get here, we're nearing the end here, but maybe we'll get into some of the stuff with Dustin Poirier right now that has happened with Dustin Poirier versus Tony Ferguson that Dana's been saying. But I actually don't think Dana's being ridiculous there, because I've seen almost nothing from Woodley the last couple fights. I've watched him, and I know coming in, I joined the sport a bit late, off the tail end of his prime. Well, not even his prime anymore, obviously, but just that I missed the peak Woodley, and I was just like, this guy just, like you said, he just looks like a shell. That's the truth. I think any person could point that out, which says something about it,
The killer instinct isn't there. For being a wrestler, he's not showing that he knows how to wrestle at all. I thought this Covington fight was good. I thought, all right, he got worked over by Usman. He'll show up for Burns. Obviously, I was wrong about that. Knowing the history he has with Covington, 3-4 years in the making this fight, this is it. It's go time. Show up. Get back on that horse. And, well, I was wrong about that. Shout out to Covington for owning him, for owning Tyron in that fight. I don't know. There's not much to really say on it. Only he knows if he's truly is done and where his head is at. For his Burns fight, he said he had gone to Thailand to practice and recoup and get better after the Usman loss, and it didn't look like he went anywhere special. he sure as shit didn't look like he went anywhere special for this fight. So I don't know. His time's up.
Yeah. And then Colby, it's hard to talk about Colby without talking about like everything else with him.
He's a heel. He's created this persona. Everybody hates it, and he does this persona so darn well. I hate it. I hate him. I don't like him. He is a good fighter. This heel that he needs to go to the WWE. He would be great there.
He almost did.
Excuse me?
I think he almost did.
Really?
I one day that flashed across my ESPN. I don't know. I think he said something about the WWE. I could be wrong.
He should go there. I mean,
yeah,
that'd be great. Now, there's some stuff I don't disagree with, but I'm not going to bring politics or anything into it. Whatever. That's neither here nor there. He's created. If you don't know what we're talking about, you can look up Colby Covington, see what he's all about. A lot of it is an act. Just from what I've heard on the podcast I've listened to. I don't know personally, obviously, but a lot of it's just an act, and he's created this heel, and it's worked. It's gotten his name out there. He gets bigger money fights now because of it. He is the bigger money because of it. Him calling out Jorge Masvidal, that'll be fun to watch because they're both trash talkers. I don't see him beating Kamaru, that's for sure. So that was stupid for him to call Usman out. How's he going to call Usman out, talk shit to Usman in their post-fight interview when Usman broke his jaw after their last fight?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't get that, but that's part of his persona that he carries around. And I guess that's the unrelenting confidence and cockiness that makes a UFC fighter, though.
Yeah. This is the one thing because it's interesting, and like you said, don't want to bring too much politics, but this is one sport where politics are brought in, and it was hilarious in the fact that, Colby, like you said, some of it I don't necessarily think isn't real with the stuff after his his win. He received a call from President Trump, and the funniest part about that to me was Trump just repeated himself 6 times. If you actually listen to it.
Is that a surprise, though?
No, of course not. I mean, but he's just like, I had to get back, I had a big rally, and then, Colby's like, thank you, Mr. President. He's like, yeah, I had a big rally tonight. You're a great fighter. It's like, those, thank you. And the best part, I get it. Frankly, I'm not receiving calls from the President of the United States. I never will. If, I don't know, say The Rock or Robert Downey Jr. called me, I would be like that, too. So for Colby to be like that with Trump, fine. I get that. He was like a little kid in a candy store. I can understand that part, but it's just so funny. With the Trump thing repeating himself. But the thing I was going to say is, Colby wears all the, Make America Great Again, all this stuff, talks about how great he is. And then it is just the irony to me of Usman being Nigerian from Nigeria, obviously an African-American living in America, to break his jaw. That's a great, I don't know why the Democrats haven't been running with that yet, frankly. That should be in their ads. It'd be better than better than the Biden ads, frankly, in my opinion.
That would be the best thing that the Democrats could have going for them. I mean... That would be great. Yes, you get a Trump supporter getting his jaw broken by an African American, somebody who's from Nigeria. So, yeah. But yes, that would be funny. They should actually use that. Let's call up the head of Biden's campaign and see if they want to run with it.
Well, I should do that because I think it's happened 2 weeks in a row now. I'm watching my football Sunday, and it's either Trump ad, Biden ad, Trump ad, back to back to back, during commercial breaks, or it's the reverse. And I'm just like, this is because they both spent hundreds of millions of dollars in ads in Florida here. So we could do probably a full podcast on reviews of the ads because I know all of them by now by heart. I can't get away from it. Regardless of all of that, Colby Covington is a great fighter. He dominated Woodley. He deserves to win this fight. I don't argue with his place currently as the number 1 contender. No, he's not getting Usman next. Obviously, Usman's going to fight Gilbert Burns. And he should fight either Jorge Masvidal or Leon Edwards because I feel bad for Leon Edwards there in the number 3 spot. He's been shut out of all this. It's funny how the pandemic really played out because Leon Edwards was supposed to fight Tyron Woodley way back in February or March. That got postponed because he was stuck in England, I believe, Gilbert Burns destroyed Woodley. Gilbert Burns is now going to fight for the title. And Leon Edwards still has not fought in 2020. Just a funny thing, I think, to play around. If we think Woodley's been broken since 2 years ago, or since last year or whatever, that it could have very well been Leon Edwards, fighting for the title fight. So that's just a thing to consider, I guess.
And keep in mind, Burns was supposed to fight for the title, but he got his cornerman or whatever got COVID, so then Jorge fought for it and lost.
Yeah. I believe they're fighting in December.
There's a lot going on there. The movement in the top 5 of the welterweight division is kind of ridiculous. I do want to see Leon Edwards get his due. I'd like to see Colby lose to Leon. I'd like to see him lose to Jorge. I've already seen him lose to Usman, so I don't need to see that again. But it would be entertaining nonetheless.
Yeah. We're on the same page there for that. So, I believe, have you been following the Dustin Poirier situation?
Honestly, not as much as I should have. However, a lot of the listeners haven't, so if you want to catch me and the listeners up really quick.
So, as you know, Dustin Poirier is the first fighter I've really watched and liked, going back to just watching some of the replays from when he fought Max Holloway for the interim belt, stuff like that. So he has become my boy. And it turns out he's a really good guy and everything. So that was a good pick by me as well with his charity and stuff like that and foundation. The man should be paid, obviously, because he's one of the bigger stars. He's been around the top of the sport for a long time in the lightweight division there. And obviously just had a brilliant fight against Dan Hooker, another fight of the year contender, back in June. And they want him to fight Tony Ferguson, which makes a ton of sense. Number 2 versus number 3 on paper. They're both killers. That would be a heck of a fight. They want it to be UFC 254, behind Gaethje, Khabib as well. So if one of them gets COVID, they could fill in. Makes a lot of sense. I believe it was supposed to be if Khabib dropped, Poirier would step in, so it's Poirier-Gaethje. And then if it was the opposite, if Gaethje dropped, it'd be Ferguson stepping in.
Can I note on that? Did you see they signed what's-his-face to actually be the fill-in for that fight now?
Michael Chandler, yes.
Yes, exactly. Yep. All right, continue on.
Bold move there, by the way. So we can talk about that too. But then, they won't give Dustin the money. I don't know what the money is. I'm not sure what these guys are compensating. I'm going to be honest. I know it's probably, you'd see it and you'd be like, wow, so NBA players are getting this and these guys are getting punched in the face for 25 minutes and they get less. But I digress. I'm not trying to compare salaries. It's all a function of the TV money, whatever. You get the idea. Some people don't, but whatever. And then Tony Ferguson actually came out and supported him because Dana White was saying how Dustin just doesn't want to fight. And Tony's like, no, pay the man. Like, there were a bunch of tweets back and forth where they were supporting each other. Like, we want the fight. Give the fans the fight. Tony's like, pay the man. And apparently Dustin Poirier was offered Michael Chandler as well. And he declined, 1, because of pay, but 2, because of the loyalty Tony showed him and the fact that Tony didn't take the Michael Chandler fight either. So I thought that was interesting because, I get that sometimes, we look at these matchups and we see they make these nice rankings for us and it's very simple, like, hey, match up this guy. It makes sense. If you look at the lightweight division, Khabib's champ. He's fighting Gaethje, the number 1 contender and interim champ in October. Poirier's 2, Tony's 3, and then Dan Hooker, who Dustin Poirier just beat, is 4. Makes complete sense for Dustin and Tony to fight, then face the winner of Khabib, Gaethje, maybe next year. And I think it's great that those two guys are standing up for each other in that way, because to my knowledge, they may not have had any interaction before that other than just being at the top of the sport. So I just want to talk about it because I thought it was really cool because a lot of times in this sport, people who aren't in the MMA are like, it's a brutal sport, it's this sort of punchy star, blah, blah. It's like, no, there's actually like a ton of respect. And I think that's a great example. Then Angela Hill-Michelle Waterson, of course, as soon as the horn goes, they're hugging each other instantly after just having punched each other for 25 minutes. I just wanted to highlight that as an incredible show of sportsmanship from both Tony Ferguson and my boy Dustin Poirier. And pay the man. Pay the man.
Give the man his money. He's worth it. Those two, like you said, people see UFC, these guys are probably just assholes. All they want to do is fight. No, there's more to it. All right, I mean, some of these fights really do have bad blood. Other fights here, they're friends going into it. Some of them are just neutral, but the respect is there, especially you're talking about 2 top-tier fighters, not just in their divisions, but in the sport overall. So, yeah, they are I don't understand all the logistics behind the payouts of it, but pay the guys. I'd love to see that fight. And if the fight doesn't happen because they didn't get money, because they weren't paid enough, that's going to piss me off too. Both in, one, just take the fight, guys, because this is your job, but also these guys deserve to get paid. So I would love to see this fight go down. I'm glad that neither of them stepped away to take on Michael Chandler and screw the other one. But, yeah, I say let them get their money and let them fight, because we would all love to see that.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. So hopefully we see that fight by the end of the year. It is not going to happen October 24th at least. So, and coming up real quick, just we don't have to get super into these, but just there are some fights that have been made. There's not too many fights that have been made for October yet, but at least the headliners of the next 3 fight nights have been announced. Holly Holm versus Irene Aldana on October 3rd. We have Marlon Morales fighting Corey Sandhagen, which I thought that was an interesting move for Sandhagen coming off a loss to Aljamain Sterling to get number 1 contender Marlon Morales in there. And then Brian Ortega back against the Korean zombie Chan Sung Young. Which one of those are you most excited for?
Oh, I'm excited for Brian Ortega. I'm glad to see him back. I'm glad to see him taking on the Korean zombie. There is some beef between those two camps. Something with, I believe it was the zombie's trainer smacking or calling out. I believe there was a physical altercation with the trainer and Ortega, or something happened there. I like both these fighters. I want to see Ortega win, get him back in that win column and get his name talking about again. Something I want to that's interesting to me is you did mention the Moraes for Sandhagen. Why didn't Aljo get Moraes?
They have to book Aljo for Jan, right? That's what that means, right? He's going to get the next title shot? That's the only thing that makes sense.
That would have to be. That would, yeah, because as you alluded to, Aljo worked Sandhagen over. Now, I like Sandhagen. I like Aljo a little bit more. Yeah, I guess, I hope that's what it means. It has to.
Yeah.
Because it's not like the winner of this fight is going to get Jan, because Moraes has already had Jan.
Right. And I'm looking now. So, yeah, Moraes is 1, Sterling's 2, and then Cody Garbrandt is 3. However, Cody Garbrandt's dropping down the flyweight to challenge Deiveson Figueiredo in November. I believe they confirmed that for 255. So, actually, and then you have Frankie Edgar at 5. Oh, my goodness. If the winner of this fight fights Frankie Edgar for an eliminator, number 1 contender fight, that'd be insane.
All right, this stuff is just wild. There's a lot going on here. This is what makes the UFC so exciting. It's just nuts. You can have anything, and then with all this COVID stuff going on, fighters are dropping in and out. There's a lot to pay attention to. But, yeah, Ortega versus Zombie. I like Ortega in that one. I'll take Sandhagen over Moraes. I like that.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, wait. Okay, so it was Jay Park, a Korean rapper who's a friend of the Korean zombie, and Ortega slapped him at UFC 248. And there was an Instagram post. This was back in March, sorry. Quote, "Last night you sat 10 meters away from me and Jay Park. For 2 hours nothing happened, so I thought everything was fine, but you effing attacked Jay Park while I went to the bathroom. Jay Park is not a professional fighter, but a musician. You slapped a civilian who is always his translator." Jay Park was serving as a translator for Korean Zombie that night. And there's a whole other stuff there. And then Brian Ortega tweeted, "I want to officially apologize to Jay Park for Saturday night. When Zombie is ready, we can fight." And now they are going to fight.
Didn't they? Yeah, but it's not like Ortega slapped him for the hell of it. There was some trash talk going on, I believe.
Well, let's see. I believe they were supposed to. Fighter. Yeah, they were supposed to fight the December before that, and stuff like that. So yeah, these two have been going at it for well over a year now. So that'll be nice to settle it in the octagon. Sorry, I may have only gotten the back half of that story.
Yeah. So all right, I like that. Yeah, just some interesting stuff. I guess to wrap this up, if we're at that, I feel we're at that stage now.
We're about 73 minutes here.
Should we run through some picks for this upcoming main card?
Yeah, so we already said. Let me pull it up again. We were both on Adesanya and Reyes, so we agree there. So we're not going to argue here. You're on Kai Kara France. I'll go with that too. That seems like the good pick. What about the other two? You said Eubanks, correct?
Yeah, I'm on Sajara as the underdog, and then I'll be on Hakeem.
We should also, I feel like, for these, do like a Bruce Buffer challenge of the night, because this I mean, we already went over this earlier, like the Hakeem Dawoodi versus Zubaira Tukhugov. See, I got it right there. You didn't even hear it. Like, I want to hear. I'm not trying to be mean to the guy, but like, look, I can't. People know who've listened to this for a while. I struggle with pronouncing a lot of things. I talk too fast. I'm not going to get Zubaira. I'm not even say his first name wrong. Zubara's name. Like, I want to hear Bruce Buffer say that while he's screaming at the top of his lungs. God, Eubanks. I seen more Eubanks, but I'll zag a bit here. I'll go Vieira. I didn't realize she was the 7th ranked in the division, so maybe the time zone will mess it up. And who'd you take for the last one?
I took Hakeem.
I'll go with Zubaria. Maybe I'll spend the rest of the podcast trying to say his name correctly.
Good luck with that. If you're going to take the man, you should at least know how to say his name.
He just looks he looks like he's going to win this one in this picture I'm looking at right now. So we'll go with that. And I want to hear Bruce say his name. That's all.
That'll be a good one. So I think those should be some good fights. Like we said earlier, the main 2 fights, get your date night over with your significant others. Be back in time for at least the top 3 fights. Kai Kara France should be exciting, those 2 flyweights. Dominick Reyes, maybe a late knockout, probably more likely a decision. And Israel Adesanya 4th round knockout.
There we go. Yeah, I like Izzy in the 4th. I like that. That's a good call. It seems about to be the right round there, and Reyes by decision as well. So as I said earlier, yep, I'm excited, and I know we'll be talking throughout this as well. It's pay-per-view Saturday. It's going to be college football will be on the other minor screen as well. So we'll have some fun with this.
It's going to be fun, and maybe we can recap or we'll touch base before one of the next pay-per-views. Seems like we got some good ones coming up.
Oh, 100%, yes, for sure.